welcome everybody to Bangers and Classics podcast, which involves me, James Ruppert, and him, David Malloy. And what's occurring at the moment, David?
What's occurring? I was thinking of changing my name to somebody out of Red Dwarf. Was it Ramesses Niblick III, Kaplunk, Kaplunk, whoops, where's my thibble?
Yeah.
But I thought it was too many letters to, for the postman to cope with, so
Right.
just keep it the same. We're in 1975, James.
Yeah.
We just jumped 3 years. I mean, I had to drag you kicking and screaming out in 1972 for obvious reasons. We've touched on many times before.
Yeah.
But that lump hammer came in quite handy, I thought.
Yeah.
But we've moved forward 3 years, or backwards 3 years, because I'm not sure this is such a great year. 75.
Oh no, it's a great year. No, it's excellent.
Oh well, we'll have to wait and see about that, won't we? We'll have to debate this as we go along. In the meantime, I'll have a couple of car spots. That occasional thing we sometimes still do.
Yeah.
One of them is a car that, if I'm honest, I'm not fond of, never have been. But a lot of people are, so which is fair enough. It's a Nissan Figaro.
Mm-hmm.
Saw one sitting in a driveway the other day. Can't remember where it was. wasn't terribly far from where I live, and it looked in very good nick. So somebody obviously loves it. Fair enough. Not my porridge, but there you go. And I have seen a couple of times, just sitting partly obscured in the driveway. There's something sitting in front of it. A nice Lotus XL. Now I think this might be an Eclat XL. I think it's one of the early ones from '83.
Right.
But there you have it. So those are my two car spots. There's probably been other stuff, but those are the two that stick in my mind.
Yeah.
So what you got? You got anything?
Well, I mean, I see loads of stuff, David. But the interesting one was actually a fairly modern vehicle, which used sort of the top of our drive as a sort of turning point. And it was an Aerial Atom, which will probably be a classic. It's probably a classic now. It will never be a banger, of course. But it was a very strange thing. So it was a bit like someone was on a test drive. It was a bit like someone had taken it, because it's a very odd place to turn around and drive back. I've never ever seen one in this area before. So it made quite a good noise, actually. It's quite nice. And obviously you have to wear a helmet, which I'm not sure is a terribly good look, is it really? You look a tiny bit daft in a sort of a close-faced helmet, but you do need one. And it was. I suppose it was something I didn't expect to see when I woke up in the morning. So it was quite interesting from that point of view.
The track day cars, James. I don't see the point of them.
No, they are track day cars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I can't really see the point of them, really. But there you go.
Yeah, I'm sure they're well engineered, etc., and go very well, but they're not very used in public roads, and you can't and shouldn't even attempt to use them to anything, even a fraction of the potential on a public road. There was one kicking around this area for a while. Saw it a couple of times at filling stations, etc. Probably 2-3 years ago. Haven't seen it since. But obviously, they stick out like the proverbial sore thumb. Just so different. Maybe in that sense, it's quite a nice treat to see one.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 1975, we had various cars launched. I would have chosen, one of my favourites, but I thought it's such an obvious classic. We can't do it. That's the Lancia Monte Carlo.
Right.
Obviously a classic, so let's not even bother going there.
Yeah.
And let's look at something completely different. Something a bit humbler, more down to earth, a bit more earthy, shall we say. And I came up with the Vauxhall Chevette.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I wonder what you thought of it, James. In particular, do you think it's a banger, or is it a classic, or something else?
Well, I mean, obviously we have to be careful, because our sponsors are the Bedford Enthusiasts Club, who probably have a commercial version of the Chevette, because
we do,
it
yes.
certainly was a van at some point, and obviously if you went to Europe, it was a Cadet. Never mind a Chevette, it was a Cadet. So it's got old bits from Vivas, hasn't it? In which actually lived on right into the Corsa, didn't it? So I think you find there's a sort of a fairly direct line from the old Viva to the Chevette to Corsas. They're quite effective cars. They were very good rally cars actually at the time. Rear wheel drive and all that sort of stuff, and there were posh ones, weren't they? They were the fast ones, the
Oh, yeah.
HS stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was a workaday little car, wasn't it? It was a. I quite like the look of it. I mean, it was a sort of the drooped snoot styling at the front, which was quite
Mm.
interesting at the time. It looked very different from everything else. But yeah, it was a good little shopper. It was a little reliable family uh, car which would yeah do its stuff, and then we forgot all about it, and all of a sudden you see loads of them, and they've all disappeared.
Yeah.
So on that basis alone, it's a classic. But
Yeah. Might go a different direction with this one. My folks actually had one at one
oh
point.
right,
Yeah. Probably about 76, something like that.
yeah,
Basically, as you say, James, it's an Opel Kadett with a
it
different
is.
front end and
Mm,
Vauxhall running gear because it had the 1256 cc pushrod engine from the Viva.
yeah.
But the name of the Chevette was first used in 1973
Mm,
for the Brazilian-made Chevrolet Chevette. And of course, that only really appeared, I think, in the American continents. But we got obviously the Chevette in 1975 when Europe got the Kadett. But in some respects, they are different cars. The Kadett and the
yeah.
Chevette. They're
Oh yeah,
different
they
front
are.
end treatments, and of course, different engines. The hatch was first to appear in the UK. You could get it in 3 doors only. That's my
Yeah.
folks had. And then you got a 2 or 4 door saloon, which I think is a bit of a hatchback. I have to say, it's not the
Mm,
most attractive looking car. And then, of course, we had the estate and shooting brake, which again had 3 doors.
yeah.
Um, the Opel equivalent of that was called the Kadett Caravan. Go figure. Don't
Yeah.
ask me why. There was a coupe version, of course, the Kadett GTE Coupe, which was quite sought after back in the day, but there was no coupe version of the Chevette. You did, as you say, have a van version, which was the Bedford Chevan,
Mm.
and based in, again, the estate version. Yeah, you see, they were quite popular. But guess how many, at the last count, James, were left in UK roads?
23,000.
The only 22,994
Oh
out.
my. Oh dear.
Yeah, six.
Really? Wow. Goodness
Six,
me.
yeah. Shivans left. Obviously,
Mm,
it's a weekly sop to the Bedford Enthusiast Club
yeah.
because they were threatening to come after us with a baseball bat with wire
Mm.
encrusted around it, and someone forgot to pay our protection money
Oh
last
right.
week. Being you,
Mm.
never mind. But of course, you say we had the HS, the HSR, which was effectively an evolution. Anyway, I feel like an Evo version of the HS. They had the 2.3 litre slant 4 16 valve engine.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were successful in rallying, very
They
successful.
were. Yeah.
Pentia Ricola drove it, I think, in 77, was particularly notable then. And Tony Pond, I remember, won the Manx Rally in 1981 in the HSR. A bit of a dogfight with Jimmy McRae and Walter Royal. McRae was in the Skoda 400 and Royal was in a 911. Didn't finish the rally Royal, but to be honest, he was well beaten before then. And Pondy won it. And no great surprise because Pond was a fantastic rally driver. I think anyone who
Mm.
lived through that era knew how good he was. He just didn't make maybe the correct career choices in terms of the world stage. But yeah, bloody good driver.
Yeah.
Chevette lasted a little bit longer than 81. It went into, I think, 84, being phased out from 83 onwards when the Nova came in. But this is the thing about the Chevette. It was quite old tech. I mean,
Yeah.
it's rear-wheel drive. Bringing it out in the mid-70s, well, you already had the 127, the Renault 5,
Mm.
Peugeot 104 front-wheel drive, better packaging. Obviously, having it rear-wheel drive, it basically made the load area higher, cut down the amount of boot space, which wasn't great. You also had a live rear axle
Yeah.
back in the day, which again is old technology. It looked okay. It wasn't a fast car except for the sporty versions, but it was generally well liked, James. I think
Yeah.
generally well received, and they sold over 400,000 of them in the UK. So it must have done something right. My folks had one. I didn't really love it. I have to say, I was only a kid, but I never really got excited about it. The sporty versions, yeah, absolutely, they're fantastic. The HS, the HSR, and there's even another one, a very rare one that a dealer did called the HSX. But we'll not bother with that. If you're talking just about the HS versions, yeah, they're absolute classics. The cooking versions, the traditional versions, yeah, worthy little cars, but an old design, effectively, out of date. And I'm not sure I'd call them a classic from that, but I can't call them a banger either,
Right.
because they were well-liked cars, they're a good function. So I'm going to hedge my bets and just say it's somewhere in the middle. It is what it was, or it was what it was. And it's not a classic, but it's not a banger either. Was that fair enough?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, okay. Now, if you'd said no, I'd been very upset, of course.
Really? Oh, okay.
I'd went off in the huff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, well, Cars, 1975, James. Well,
Yeah.
we had some films.
Yeah, we did have a few films, yeah.
Yeah. Want to hit me with one?
Well, you can do. Tommy came out that year, actually.
Yeah,
The Who's Tommy.
Yeah, didn't like it.
No,
No.
it's got Oliver Reed in it though. That's
Yeah, not
not
enough.
good quality.
Nah, not enough.
No.
Nah. Rock opera's not really for me, I'm afraid.
No? Oh, that's a shame.
A bit self-indulgent, perhaps. But hey, a lot of people liked it.
Yeah.
But of course, James, we're talking 1975 films. We've got to start off with, I think, two. First one's really obvious. It's going to be Jaws, isn't it?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's got to be Jaws. Apart from the fact it's a thoroughly good film, Spielberg's direction is excellent. Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss was superb in it. Everything about it came together and worked. There's also a few cars in the background in it, but the one you did see sort of a little bit more of was quite an attractive thing. It was a Chevy Blazer pickup, which was the Amityville police car, which I quite like. The Amityville police cruiser, I suppose. It was pretty good. So yeah, I liked Jaws. I forgot to mention Robert Shaw, of course. How could I?
Robert Shaw, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Shaw was an excellent actor. He was usually terrific in anything he appeared in, and no less so in Jaws. The other film, James, this is one I think might be closer to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rollerball.
Oh, yeah, I've got Rollerball written down. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's really portrays a corporate controlled future, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much about today.
Well, it's not. We're not quite there, but if we don't watch ourselves,
I don't know about that. It's bread and circuses to distract the masses. So that still goes on.
Well, it is quite prescient. Whether you think it's here or it's not quite here, it's still prescient because there are certainly indications, to put it mildly, that society is heading in that direction, if not already there. But a couple of interesting things about it, I thought, apart from its plot and its message, which, is well worth watching for that reason, the BMW headquarters and museum offices appear in it.
That's very true, yeah.
Yeah, they're the headquarters of the Energy Corporation in it. And the action sequences were also shot in a sports hall in Munich because of the shape of it. It was best suited to the rollerball arena. And there were bikes in it.
There were bikes, yeah.
Yeah, there were Honda CBRs, I believe. That's about the only vehicle I can remember being in it. But a very, very good film. And here's a film, James, that's a bit more light-hearted. It's one you wouldn't expect it to be a car in, but there is. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Right.
Much of it filmed in Scotland, actually. I believe at Doon Castle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's obviously set in Arthurian times, and takes the mickey out, of course, of the Arthurian legends quite effectively, and addition of some French characters certainly spice it up.
Yeah.
And Clerkman knows it you knickets, and all that nonsense. You think, how the heck do you get a car in Arthurian times?
Well, that's right.
Yeah, it's Monty Python. They can do what they like. There's a Rover P6 2000 in it, dressed up as a police car. So there you go. So any other good films? I can think of one, James.
Well, there was one for Over the Cuckoo's Nest, actually.
Oh, crikey, I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah,
great film. Very, very sad film.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Jack Nicholson. Never really a fan of Jack Nicholson, I'm afraid to say. Except in that, I thought he was superb. Yeah. Very, very good film indeed. But I'm thinking of one set in London, starring our friend of the podcast, because he gets mentioned a lot, John Wayne.
Oh, right, yeah.
Brannigan, James.
Yeah, Brannigan's an excellent film, actually. I didn't realise it was that year, because I've seen it fairly recently, and it is. I thought it stood up extremely well as an action film. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, as I say, it's John Wayne. He's always watchable. People say he wasn't a great actor. So what? His films are usually pretty good, so that's all you're really bothered about. It's set in London, of course, and Jan's a tough Chicago cop sent over to sort things out over here. It's famous for a Capri Mark II scene involving a Capri Mark II jumping over a half-raised tower bridge.
That's right.
I hate to tell you, it didn't happen.
No?
It's models.
Oh, no.
The difficult bit was done with models, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you love 70s metal, James, 70s
it's
cars.
great, yeah.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well, that ends up in a skip at one point at the end of its chase sequence, doesn't it? And it's all Rovers and Jags and stuff.
Well, you get a lot of Fords too. You've got obviously the Capri, you've got a Consul, you've got a Granada Coupe. Wow. You've got an E-Type Jag, as you say.
Yeah.
But in the background, look at this. I've made a list of a few of them.
Oh, good.
Lotus Elite, that's the Wedge, that's a Type 75. Jensen Healey, Citroen SM, a Marcus 1500. That's 2 weeks in a row for the Marcus.
Yeah, we have. Absolutely.
That's pretty damn good. Renault 15, when was the last time you saw one of those?
Yeah.
And various Rover P5Bs and P6s, etc. So yeah, apart from the fact it's a good film, there's lots and lots of great cars to spot in it. So even if you not particularly enjoying the film, just watch it for the street scenes and play spot the car because you'll have great fun doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Any other films you can think of, James?
No, I can't remember whether Barry Lyndon, where there definitely isn't any cars in, came out. But no, I don't think there was anything else of particular note.
Well, there was the Eiger sanction, but I can't remember any cars in it. That's just Clint being Clint. Oh, a jolly good thing too, actually. But can't remember any cars being in it, so we'll just move swiftly on. And I think we will take a break. You're listening to Bangers and Classics, the podcast that lets off more steam than a Triumph Stag. And we're back with part 2 of the podcast. But let's deal with the challenge this week.
All right.
You didn't say, well, if we got a challenge, you're slipping, man, you're slipping.
Well, I don't know, but there you go.
I don't know. Standards, You can't get co-hosts anywhere these days,
No.
as you always tell everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Challenge for this week was to find, registered in 1975, of course, a front-wheel drive family car, which means it has to be a 4-door saloon, a 5-door hatch, or an estate, has to be roadworthy, and cost $7,500 or less.
Right.
Those are the rules, such as they are. What did you find? Did you break the rules?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, no, I had to do that because all I could see, actually, there were loads of Maxis. I couldn't believe the number of Maxis I saw. And the thought of having an Austin Maxi was far too depressing. But a family car. Now, I used to have loads of DAF brochures in the 70s because I think my dad was going to buy a DAF as a sort of a spare or something. And we had loads of them. And a family car was actually a DAF because they showed pictures and line drawings of people and families inside DAFs. So I found a 1975 DAF 66 Marathon. So it's a sporty one with a jaunty side stripe. And yeah, it's only got 2 doors. And yeah, it's not an estate, which you could get. And it's powered by rubber bands. But I used to like these a lot. So yeah, for me, that's quite a good family car. And this one looks really great. So and it's only €4,500, and yeah, I have to go to Finland to get it. But I thought that was quite nice that I could have a sort of a few days out of driving to Finland and driving back. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, it's not rear-wheel drive though.
No, I thought you said front-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's a DAF, not rear-wheel drive.
No, I thought they were front-wheel drive. I thought they were all front-wheel drive. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I know the 340 was rear. But maybe.
Yeah, I know. I thought these were all, but
doesn't matter, does it?
I don't really care. I gave up caring about 2 years ago about anything. So
you had you in Susyong's well.
Yeah.
He lies fluently. So the DAF. Yeah, I did see that one.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I passed on. Saw a couple of Maxis as well that you mentioned.
There were loads of Maxis about it.
Look, John Lennon had won this garden for a while. That's all I'm saying. Admittedly, it was the one that he crashed and he put it on a plinth to remind him of his mortality or whatever. But yeah, he did the Wonders Garden for a bit. Well, I thought of going abroad. Thought of looking abroad for one, but I decided to bat for the home team this week.
Yeah.
So I confined my search to Blighty, and I found a 1975 Van Den Pla 1500 manual.
All right.
Right, it's 54,000 miles. It's Brownwell or Damask, what I call it. It's £5,500, and it's on the Car and Classic website. It's last MOT'd in 2021. There's no advisories, obviously MOT exempt. 5-speed box, James. New clutch last year. History goes back to 1982. It does look good in the photographs. Nice interior, very clean engine bay indeed. And the seller does say, well, there's a few sort of little blisters in one of the wings, but he's got touch-in paint if you want it. And he reports that the floors and sills are sound. Very few of these around, James.
Yeah.
Very, very few. And this one, at the very least, would be a good starting point. If not, it could be better than that. It's just obviously, because of the age of it and because of British Leyland's, somewhat checkered history, you want to check the bodywork out before you bought it. But on the face of it, I think it looks a good one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't mind. It's obviously it's an Allegro with a different name, a different grille on it. So what? I don't mind the Allegro really. You know, a lot of people don't like them. A lot of trendies don't like them. So that makes it good for me. Because if they don't like them, I've got to. So you've either got a DAF 66, which we're not sure if it's front or rear.
I think you're right. I think it's real. I don't know. I've got a brain fade on today, so I think that it was the driven rear wheels, but there we go. So it's still a family car.
Yeah. So you can't accuse me of breaking the rules anymore, then.
No, because I just sort of had enough. Really, I just thought, I just like the look of it. I thought it's such a cute car. And it's only €4,500. So
which is about £4,500 at the current exchange rates.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, let's see if we can brighten up things with the albums. 1975. Now, I reckon, James, 1975 was a funny old year for music. It was kind of, I suppose, killing time between the heyday of glam rock and I think the explosion of punk rock and disco. That's how I saw it. But I'm going to run some albums past you. I'd like you to give me you're slightly older than me, are considerably older than me. Well, you're considerably older, obviously. You'll remember these. I don't really. You had Mothership Connection by Parliament.
Right.
Which is funk, if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever into funk, but apparently it's a classic album of that genre.
Right.
Included a track called Night of the Thumposaurus Peoples.
Goodness me.
Not to be confused with, but perhaps similar in some regards to a band called the Ohio Players, who are, again, a long-standing funk act, and they had an album called Honey out, which apparently is also very good if you're into funk. Do you have any memory of those?
No.
No? Right. Okay, moving along. Young Americans by Bowie?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you reckon to that?
Yeah, it's okay. Yes. I do have some Bowie in my collection. Yeah, that's okay. It was quite interesting, bit of a diversion.
Well, that's a moving away from the glam rock.
Very much so.
So that, as I say, that's why I'm saying glam rock was fading, because you likes of Bowie, they were moving away from it into other areas. You also had Bruce Springsteen's Born to Win album. I have seen Springsteen live. I've kind of went off him a bit for certain reasons in recent years, but still a classic album, I have to say. And you had, James, of course, how could I forget? Night at the Opera by Queen.
Right.
Famous for what? What did it include on it? You'll know this.
Well, I would assume it was Bohemian Rhapsody.
And you'd be completely right, yeah.
All right.
A song, again, I don't like. I just never liked Bohemian Rhapsody. I know that I'm in a minority of about probably two here, but what the heck, I've never been a fan of it. But everybody else seems to like it. Also with a track called You're My Best Friend, which is, again, one of the signature songs on it.
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac had their eponymous album out. They've been going for, 8 years by then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was included a famous song called Rhiannon. And that's really about all the albums I could think of. It just didn't seem to be inspiring a lot of albums that year.
Well, actually, it wasn't a half bad year. If you like Led Zeppelin, like I do, Physical Graffiti came out that year, and I do remember buying that brand new from the record shop, and that's very good if you like that sort of stuff. Um, Also, Dr. Feelgood, Down by the Jetty, recorded in mono. That was sort of pub rock, but it was very good R&B. Really, it was proper old-fashioned. In a way, this was on the way to punk because it was no frills stuff, and they were an extremely good live band. If you were lucky enough to see them from Essex, so that's a good one. And also, there is a reason for mentioning this: the original soundtrack by 10cc came out in 1975. I'm sure you remember "I'm Not in Love."
I was going to mention it, another song that a lot of people like. I just never got into it at all. I
Never
just
going
don't
to.
like it.
Well, strangely enough, I'm actually time traveling back to 1975 later on this week, David, and
Right.
I will be seeing 10cc. So I'll report back
The actual
to you one
10cc.
day. The actual 10cc,
So with
absolutely.
Godly and Cream as well as I can't
What
remember.
you get, because I've seen them before, you get Graham Gouldman, who's
Yeah,
a
that's it.
fantastic bass player and songwriter. They're actually the drummer. It's the same stage drummer they've been using since 1973, so he's a connection. And then there's a couple of others who've been in the band, in the touring version of the band since about 1980. So although it isn't strictly all of 10cc, there's quite a lot of them there. And then he also usually shows like a video of old Lol Creams singing something the last time that I saw them. So you actually see a fair amount of original 10cc's, but the musicianship is off the scale actually with them. It's extremely good evening of very good music. So yeah, so I'm going back to 1975 and there and thereabouts. I'll be not in love
Right.
and
I can't
stuff.
remember if Long Cream and Kevin Godley are still with us. I don't
Yeah, they
know.
are. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear
yeah.
that. They became a duo and they had a couple of hits in the early 80s.
Yeah, they did.
Godley
Yeah,
and
they sort
Cream.
of went into the world of advertising and making films and stuff like that. So it was quite interesting. I know that the guitarist hasn't been very well at all in the last few years, which is why he doesn't tour anymore. But yeah, as far as I know, 10cc are all still there.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I
Hmm.
say I wasn't particularly a fan of "I'm Not in Love," but some of the other songs I've got a lot more time for.
I'm
Uh,
Mandy Fly Me. There you go.
God, yeah, Dreadlock Holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like reggae. Oh no,
Mhm.
I love it. They were kind of big when I was at primary school.
Yeah.
10cc, I recall that. 1975 was, I suppose, was a fetid year for the Quo, Status Quo,
Mm.
because they had the only British number one single that year.
Yeah.
Released in 1974, but it didn't hit number one until January 75. That was a song called Down Down.
Mm.
Good old fashioned headbanging stuff. Nothing wrong with that at all. I like it.
Yeah.
Something I'm not so keen on,
Mm.
also a huge hit, number one, was Bye Bye Baby by the Bay City Rollers.
All right.
I was Roller Mania struck when I was at primary school, and lots of the young ladies in my class were absolute Bay City Roller fans, which drove some of the rest of us completely up the wall. And it's a song from last week, James,
Mm.
that I mentioned again this week. We mentioned it's 72. It's a song called Sailing. I thought it was 76, the Rod Stewart version. The one that did well, when it was
Yeah.
number one, came out with 75.
Right.
Came out. And there's one song I'll leave you with. It was number one. I'm going to tell you a story about it. Tammy Wynette had a number one hit single with Stand By Your
Mm.
Man. Now, back in the 90s, I worked for a certain law firm. And I was a litigation lawyer. I did civil litigation and indeed criminal litigation at that time. But part of our work involved dealing with divorce cases, and quite often clients would be female. We had a telephone answering machine, a hold machine rather, that played a CD just on loop. And the same, maybe 12, 20 songs over and over again. But the same music was also piped into the waiting area. Now, to get to where I worked, you had to go through the reception area, through the waiting room, upstairs, and find where my office was. And one day, I'm walking through it, and I thought, what the heck is that? It's because they're playing out Stand By Your Man. So I went to the senior part, and said, I've just heard something I think you need to deal with. What's that? Well, we do quite a lot of divorce work, and a lot of our clients are females who are left their husbands and don't want to adhere for various reasons. whatever those reasons might be, do you really think it's a good idea to be playing a CD that includes Stand By Your Man in the Waiting Room? Or indeed in Telephone Hold Machine? Oh my God, it doesn't. It blooming does. So there you go. Divorce lawyers playing Stand By Your Man. How crazy is that? But it's true.
Madness, absolute madness. 1975, David. 3 series came to pass. That's I think worth celebrating. The
Oh, yeah.
E21.
Fine. Wake me up, somebody.
We do that, and strangely enough, work on the Channel Tunnel that had been started in 1973 was actually stopped in 1975 when we refused to pay any more money, or the British government at the time said, "Oh, we're not paying any more money." So I wonder what happened to that project. But there you go.
Yeah, I wonder what happened.
Mm,
Yeah. One of the many attempts at having a channel tunnel,
mm,
James.
yeah.
There were a few over the years.
Mm,
History of it's quite interesting. There's various undersea tunnels been attempted from the UK and
mm,
not got very far. But it's quite an interesting little bit of history to look at. How they planned to do it, how they ever thought they could engineer this back in the 19th century.
mm,
But hey, God loves a trial, they say.
yeah.
Anyway, we've got one more thing to do, and that is Danger Mobile.
All right.
We'll rattle through this, I think.
Mm,
I thought we'd maybe do one from 1975. Car that was
yeah.
launched that year, and much more significant than any car from Munich was the launch of the Renault 20 and Renault 30. Whoa, I can silence says it all. 30 was launched first. That was a 6-cylinder version, and you had the 20, which was a 4-cylinder version. Same body shell, just some sort of small detail differences. It was launched a few months later. 20 was a replacement for the 16, but the Renault 30 was a new flagship model, an executive car, as Renault saw it. And well, let's find out how they got on. Well, what happened? Renault 20 did actually win What Car Magazine's Car of the Year award for 1978, James. Just before your time. You'd probably voted it down, I suspect.
Yeah.
It also appeared in a chase scene in Target. There was a Renault 20 pursuing a 205 GTI. Gosh, I wonder who won that race. But both the 20 and the 30 were 5-door hatchbacks, both front-wheel drive. 20 originally had the 1647cc engine, as used in the 16, a little bit lacking in power, so eventually came up with a version with a 1995cc engine, same as they used in the Citroen CX, I believe, though the 1.6 stayed in sale for a while. Renault 30 got fuel injection in 1978, giving it, making it even better, I think. Need some diesel versions. The turbo diesel came along for the 30 and normally aspirated diesel for the 20. Lasted, I think, until about 83 before they were both discontinued. 160,000 or so Renault 30s came off the lines and around 645,000 Renault 20s. But here's the thing, James. Today, in the UK, you have 10 Renault 30s on the road and just 9 Renault 20s. That's really pretty sad. Good big cars. The 30 dropped money like crazy when it was new, but that's just because the public couldn't get their head around the idea of an executive Renault. That's always been the case, I'm afraid. But they were decent big cars, drove well, very comfortable, a little bit different, and plenty of space. If you wanted a bit of go, you had the nice Renault 30, 2.7 litre V6, and later ones with fuel injection. What's not to like? I mean, I would probably have one. I always liked the 30 particularly. If you want to get one, better move quickly because there ain't many left. And what was it replaced by, James? Do you remember?
Was that the 25?
Yep, with your favourite character in it, Joanne.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought I'd have to mention that. Try and cheer you up a bit.
Yeah.
You sound need to do it today.
Oh no, I'm fine. No, absolutely. No, I knew someone who actually worked for Renault, and they had and they couldn't sell them, so the Renault 30s anyway.
Yeah.
And they had to register them, and he had one as a company car, and it was called the Mars Bar because it was black on the inside, black leather, and it was gold on the outside. So
Right.
there you go. That's really my one slight connection with that was
Mars bar wasn't gold on the outside though.
No, well,
You know, some strange people, James. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it certainly wasn't gold leather, but I don't think it was red leather. Was it red leather?
Yeah, sure, it wasn't velour.
No, I think it was leather.
Right. Yeah, well, I think they were quite nice cars, but
Mm.
the 30s just didn't sell in the UK. If you shelled out the list price for a new one,
Yeah,
you went to trade it, and even a couple of years later, you would get a nasty shock with
yeah,
what you offered for trading. A bit unfortunate because I think there were better cars than that, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
yeah.
So I think that's all for 1975, James.
Oh,
One
really?
question to decide. Well, we
Mm.
have, yeah. We've got one question left to decide.
All right. What's that?
Well, is it a classic or a banger of a year?
Yeah. Oh, it's a classic. It's in the 1970s. So there you go.
I'm not so sure.
No.
No, it's 72, I think, was a better year.
Mm.
75, music for me wasn't brilliant. The films, with one or two honourable exceptions, were pretty run of the mill.
Mm.
A couple of good cars introduced, yeah, including the Monte Carlo was introduced, wasn't it? Okay, it's a classic then, fine. Just purely because of a couple of films in the Monte Carlo,
Yeah.
that's it. It's a classic. So that's it, I think, for this week. Thank you to the listeners for listening. Hope you tune in next week when we'll have something random, and we'll be planning our Halloween trip away, won't we, James, this
Oh,
year?
really? Oh, right. I didn't know
You've
we're
forgotten
going
again.
anywhere. Didn't
Well,
know
we
we
are,
were going
yeah.
anywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
no, I
okay.
mean, well, I think, do we not have a dishwasher to return to Transylvania or something?
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just get it couriered, I think. Maybe probably safer.
Yeah.
Anyway, take care and cheerio.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for turning up. Yeah, I'm genuinely off to 1975 to see 10cc. So there you go. I'll give them your love.